Hello and welcome to Xul Podcast. I'm James Caro.
And I'm Lora.
Today we're diving deep into the personal life of Elon Musk, the entrepreneur shaping the future of humanity.
Right, the guy behind Tesla and SpaceX.
Exactly. And you, our listeners, asked us to explore the man behind the missions.
Yeah.
To understand Elon Musk, not just for his rockets and electric cars, but for his relationships, his family, the personal experiences that made him who he is.
Yeah, totally going beyond the headlines,
For sure. So to get to the bottom of this, we've got excerpts from a couple of biographies, some Wikipedia entries, even a snippet from a Marie Claire article.
Sounds like a pretty eclectic mix.
It is, but it gives us a lot to work with when it comes to understanding, the man behind the mission.
It really does. And I think a great place to start would be with his early life and family dynamics, just to kind of see, what shaped the man we know today.
Right. Let's start with his childhood in South Africa. Imagine this. His family's doing well. His dad's an engineer with a successful business. But then his parents split up, and young Elon chooses to live with his father, who he himself described as prone to bouts of sadness and loneliness. What do you make of that choice?
It's definitely not the typical scenario. One biographer even mentions that Elon felt his father used psychological wiles to get him to stay. And get this, his grandmother encouraged him to live with his dad because she felt it was unfair that his mother had all three kids.
Wow.
Almost like they were trying to balance things out, even if it meant sending Elon into a potentially difficult environment.
Interesting. So maybe this early experience with a complex family dynamic played a role in shaping his own approach to relationships and parenting later on. It's almost like he's trying to create this big, bustling family that he may have felt was missing in his own childhood.
Yeah, that's a really insightful connection. And speaking of his childhood, the biographies paint a picture of a pretty solitary kid. He didn't have many friends, preferred books and engineering tools to social gatherings. Sounds a bit like a young Sheldon, right?
Totally. But here's where it gets interesting. He was apparently a huge Dungeons & Dragons fan, even winning a tournament as the Dungeon Master. Who knew? Maybe those late-night D&D sessions were his first taste of leadership and world-building skills that would definitely come in handy later on.
Right. It shows this early blend of intellect and imagination, a desire to create and control his own narratives. But his school years weren't all fantasy and games. There are some pretty disturbing accounts of the bullying he endured. We're talking physical attacks, being chased by gangs, even ending up hospitalized at one point. It's hard to imagine the impact that must have had on him.
Absolutely. And in interviews, he's actually teared up talking about it.
Yeah.
It seems like that experience left a deep scar. It makes you wonder if his drive to succeed, to be the best, is partly fueled by a need to prove those bullies wrong.
It's definitely possible. He's spoken about dealing with difficult emotions by focusing on moving forward, almost like a coping mechanism. Maybe that relentless pursuit of progress is rooted in those early experiences of pain and rejection.
So given that background, how did he approach love and relationships? His first wife, Justine Wilson, offers some pretty candid insights into their time together. They had a long courtship, and it sounds like his crazy work schedule was a major hurdle from the start.
Yeah, their relationship seemed intense, passionate, and maybe a bit impulsive. There's this story about him proposing out of the blue, which kind of fits with what we know about his personality.
You think he just whipped out a ring when they were working on a spreadsheet or something?
Maybe. But things took a tragic turn when they lost their first child, Nevada. It's a heartbreaking story, and it seems they grieved very differently. Justine was open about her pain, while Elon tended to avoid the topic altogether. Makes you wonder how that affected their communication as a couple.
Right, and ultimately their relationship couldn't withstand the pressure. Their divorce was described as brutal, and Justine even suggests that Elon's toughness, his ability to compartmentalize and move on, might stem from his difficult upbringing. Do you think there's a connection there?
Absolutely. It's almost like he built this emotional armor to protect himself from pain and vulnerability. But that same armor can also create distance in intimate relationships.
Okay, so first marriage, not exactly smooth sailing. Then comes Tallulah Riley, wife number 2. Well, actually, wife number 2 twice, because they got married, divorced, then remarried and divorced again. Is anyone else sensing a pattern here?
Yeah, the move fast and break things philosophy seems to have extended to his love life. Even the initial proposal to Tallulah was spontaneous. Imagine getting that phone call as her parents.
Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Riley, it's Elon. Yeah, so I just asked your daughter to marry me again.
I'm sure they were thrilled. But let's not forget there was also Amber Heard in the picture. And by now you're probably thinking, okay, this guy's personal life sounds like a tabloid headline waiting to happen.
Exactly. But beneath the drama, there's this consistent theme. Elon Musk wants a big family. We know about the twins and triplets he had with Justine through IVF. Then there's the news of him fathering twins with Siobhan Zillis, a Neuralink executive, 11 kids and counting.
11. It's almost like he's creating his own colony here on Earth.
Right. And his parenting style, well, let's just say it's unconventional. There's that story about him banning stuffed animals in his house. Apparently, he believes they encourage weakness and wants to raise his kids to be tough and resilient, just like him.
It makes you wonder if he's trying to recreate his own challenging childhood in some way, almost like a test to see if his kids can overcome the same obstacles he did.
Okay, so we've got this picture of Elon as a father who's a bit of a maverick, to say the least. But what does all this tell us about him as a person? What are your biggest takeaways so far?
Well, I think it's clear that his drive and ambition extend far beyond his businesses. He applies that same intensity to his personal life, whether it's relationships, family, or even his parenting philosophy. He's clearly not afraid to break the mold, even if it means ruffling some feathers along the way.
And he seems to crave connection and family, even if his approach to those things is unconventional. But there's also this underlying sense of loneliness, this need to prove himself, that seems to drive a lot of his actions. It's fascinating and a bit heartbreaking at the same time.
Absolutely. He's a paradox in many ways. A brilliant mind with a childlike fascination with the future, yet seemingly haunted by the ghosts of his past. It's a complexity that makes him all the more intriguing.
So how does this complicated, driven individual translate his personal experiences into his professional life? So we've explored Elon's childhood, his family dynamics, and even gotten a glimpse into his relationships. It's clear that the guy's personal life is anything but conventional. Now, how do those experiences translate into his career? I mean, this is the guy who co-founded PayPal, right?
Exactly. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. After selling PayPal to eBay in 2002, Musk could have easily retired and lived a life of luxury. But that's not the Elon Musk we know.
Definitely not. He took a huge chunk of that fortune and poured it into two incredibly ambitious ventures, SpaceX and Tesla Motors. It's almost like he set out to conquer two of humanity's biggest frontiers, space and sustainable transportation at the same time.
It seems audacious, almost reckless, but when you consider his childhood, that drive to push boundaries starts to make sense. Remember those stories about the bullying?
Yeah.
Maybe those experiences fueled his need to prove himself, to achieve things that seemed impossible to others.
It's an interesting thought, right? Like he's constantly trying to outdo his past to reach for something bigger and bolder. One biography mentions that he literally went to the library to teach himself about rocket engineering. He started cold calling experts, asking to borrow their old engine manuals. Talk about a hands-on approach.
There's this great anecdote about him sitting by a pool in Las Vegas reading a tattered manual for a Russian rocket engine. When someone asked him what he was up to, he casually replied, "I'm going to colonize Mars."
Hold up. Can we pause and appreciate how casually he dropped that bombshell? Oh, just gonna colonize Mars. No biggie.
It's classic Elon ready. But what's remarkable is that he wasn't just spouting off sci-fi fantasies. He had a clear vision, a plan to make humanity a multi-planetary species. And he was willing to take on the giants of the aerospace industry, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, even entire nations like Russia and China, to make it happen.
It's almost like he thrives on that David versus Goliath dynamic. He's the underdog, the disruptor, taking on the establishment with his scrappy team of engineers and his relentless drive. He even had this 5-point checklist he called the algorithm, which encouraged engineers to question every requirement, every specification. Why do we do it this way? Can we do it better, cheaper, faster?
He's not afraid to challenge conventional wisdom. There's that story about him questioning the cost of SpaceX's Merlin engines. When he was told they weighed about 1,000 pounds and cost a fortune, he compared them to Tesla's Model S engine, which was 4 times heavier, but significantly cheaper.
I can imagine the look on the engineers' faces.
Right. His response was classic Musk. So if the Tesla engine is 4 times as heavy as your engine, why does yours cost so fucking much?
Wow.
He's blunt, demanding, but he gets results.
And it's not just about the engineering. There's that wild story about Musk refusing to bring back a Falcon 1 rocket that had been damaged during transport.
Oh, yeah.
He insisted they fix it on the remote island of Kwajalein. Talk about a logistical nightmare.
He saw it as a challenge, an opportunity to prove SpaceX's resourcefulness.
Yeah.
He flew in equipment on his private jet, and the team worked tirelessly to get the rocket launch ready. Can you imagine the pressure?
Definitely not the kind of boss who lets you coast.
Yeah.
But then again, he's known for working incredibly long hours himself, pushing himself just as hard as he pushes his team.
There's a sense of camaraderie at SpaceX, almost like a band of rebels fighting against the establishment. They're united by this shared belief that they're doing something truly groundbreaking, something that will change the world. And Musk is right there in the trenches with them leading the charge.
Speaking of changing the world, let's talk about Tesla. back when electric cars were seen as slow, clunky golf carts for eco-warriors.
Right?
Musk envisioned a future where sustainable transportation wasn't just a necessity, but a luxury experience.
He wasn't just content with building another car company. He wanted to revolutionize the entire industry, prove that electric vehicles could be cool, desirable, and outperform their gasoline-powered counterparts.
And he wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. One biography describes his fascination with lithium-ion batteries. He saw them as the key to unlocking the performance and range that electric cars needed to compete with traditional vehicles. This guy's not just a CEO in a suit. He's down to the details pushing for innovation.
He was involved in every aspect of Tesla's development, design, engineering, manufacturing. There's this story about him insisting that the Model S have a minimalist interior with as few buttons and switches as possible. He wanted the car to feel futuristic and intuitive, like a giant smartphone on wheels.
But of course, the engineers pushed back, arguing that people were used to traditional controls.
Yeah.
I can just imagine Musk rolling his eyes.
Right. There's this almost comical exchange where he's asking, why would we need a switch for the lights? When it's dark, turn the lights on.
Always challenging assumptions, always pushing for simplicity and elegance. It's classic Musk. But beyond the aesthetics, he genuinely believes in the power of technology to solve problems, whether it's climate change or traffic congestion. He's a true believer in the power of innovation to make a positive impact.
And he's not afraid to take risks. Tesla's early years were riddled with challenges, production delays, technical issues, financial struggles. There were countless moments when the company could have gone bankrupt, but Musk's unwavering belief and relentless drive kept them afloat.
He's a polarizing figure, no doubt. Some people see him as a demanding, even tyrannical boss. But the people who work for him acknowledge his brilliance and his ability to inspire them to achieve extraordinary things. You don't build rockets and revolutionize the car industry without ruffling a few feathers along the way.
It's a complex dynamic. He demands a lot, but he gives a lot too. He's not just sitting in a boardroom counting his money. He's out there with his team pushing the limits of what's possible. He's hands-on, visionary, and relentless. You can see how those traits might be both inspiring and exhausting to those around him.
Okay, so we've got this picture of Elon as a relentless innovator, a risk taker, a demanding leader. He's conquered online payments, space travel, and electric vehicles. So what's next for a guy who seems determined to solve all of humanity's biggest challenges? So we've seen how Elon's personal life is this wild ride, and his professional life is no different. Payments, space, electric cars. What's left for this guy to tackle?
Yeah, it's like he's on this mission to solve every major challenge facing humanity. There's Solar City, his push to make solar energy more accessible and widespread.
Right, and then there's Hyperloop, that almost sci-fi idea of a super high-speed transportation system.
Yeah.
Imagine zipping from LA to San Francisco in under an hour.
Yeah, don't forget Neuralink. His company developing brain-computer interfaces. It sounds straight out of a movie, paralyzed people controlling computers with their thoughts, maybe even enhancing human capabilities. It's both exciting and a bit unnerving, don't you think?
Definitely pushes the boundaries of what we consider possible.
Mm.
And then there's his acquisition of Twitter, now X.
Yeah.
That was a huge move, and it seems to be a constant source of headlines.
Right. It's fascinating because it shows his interest in not only developing these new technologies, but also how we communicate and share information as a society. He's not just building things, he's trying to influence how we interact with the world.
Yeah, one thing that really stands out to me is his ability to attract top talent. Gwynne Shotwell, the president and COO of SpaceX, has been a key player in their success. You don't launch rockets into space without a seriously skilled team.
Oh, absolutely. She's described as this brilliant engineer and a savvy businesswoman. She joined SpaceX back in 2002 as employee number 7.
Wow.
And has been this driving force ever since. You could say she's the steady hand guiding the rocket while Elon's off dreaming about Mars.
Definitely a power duo. And they've weathered some serious storms together, including several rocket launch failures. Those must have been incredibly tense times.
Oh, for sure. There's this story about one incident where a Falcon 1 rocket failed due to a technical issue. Tom Mueller, one of their top engineers, was devastated. Turns out he'd recently lost his first child, a tragedy that resonated with Elon's own experience years earlier.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even with all the ambition and the drive, these are still real people dealing with real-life struggles. It humanizes Elon a bit.
Yeah.
Showing that he's not just a robot focused on conquering the universe.
Right. And there's another anecdote that I think sheds some light on his character. When he acquired Twitter, he was immediately confronted with the problem of hate speech and online trolls. Initially, he was hesitant about content moderation.
Yeah.
But when he saw the extent of the problem, he took decisive action.
He instructed his team to basically nuke the hate speech, showing that he wasn't willing to tolerate harmful content on his platform, even if it meant going against his initial instincts. He's not afraid to change his mind when presented with new information.
Right, that willingness to adapt and evolve, that's a key takeaway from our deep dive into Elon Musk. He's not afraid to challenge conventions, take risks, and learn from his mistakes. He's driven by this relentless curiosity and a desire to make the world a better place, even if his methods are sometimes unconventional or even controversial.
He's definitely a complex figure. Some people see him as this visionary genius, while others criticize him for being arrogant, reckless, even exploitative. It seems like people either love him or hate him. There's not much middle ground.
Yeah, and that's often the case with these groundbreaking individuals. They operate outside the norms, they push boundaries, challenge the status quo. It inevitably leads to strong reactions, both positive and negative. It's hard to be indifferent to someone like Elon Musk.
So after spending all this time exploring his life, what's the final verdict? Is Elon Musk a hero or a villain?
I think it's far too simplistic to put him in a box like that. He's this multifaceted individual with both admirable qualities and flaws. He's a force of nature, a disruptor, a dreamer who's constantly pushing the limits of what's possible.
He makes us think bigger, dream bolder, and consider a future shaped by technology and innovation in ways we might not have imagined before. Whether you admire him or question his methods, there's no denying that Elon Musk is leaving his mark on the world.
And that's perhaps the most important lesson we can take away from this deep dive: the power of audacious ambition, the importance of relentless progress, and the understanding that even the most brilliant minds are constantly evolving. What do you think? What's your biggest takeaway from exploring the life of Elon Musk?
For me, it's the realization that even someone as accomplished as Elon Musk is still a work in progress, still figuring things out, still making mistakes and learning along the way. He's not some perfect superhero. He's a human being with flaws and contradictions, which makes his achievements all the more impressive. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the life of Elon Musk. It's been quite a journey. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Elon Musk, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Xul Podcast for more explorations of the people and ideas shaping our world. Let us know who you'd like us to deep dive into next. Until then, keep exploring.